Good evening and welcome to begin tonight's ceremony at this time. For those of you who missed it earlier and maybe snuck out before the game had ended, it is available online. The Spartans were able to come back and win in overtime at the last second. For a breakdown and analysis, Jim Kilpatrick here will give you a breakdown later. It was fun. It was a very good game. It's hard to believe 10 years ago, a group of gentlemen got together and decided that it was time that we had a Hall of Fame for...
Josh, bring fork.
There's some nice music on. It's competing. So it'll be off for just a second. That it was time to have a Hall of Fame to honor our athletes. So 10 years has passed. This is our 5th class. And still impressive is the accomplishments of these inductees. So we're proud to honor them tonight. Some people in attendance tonight, we wanted to recognize our superintendent, Dr. Desiato, our deputy superintendent, Tom Neveldine. I think we lost our mic. You lost our mic. Can you hear me? The principal of the high school, Greg Avellino, and vice principal, Carol Villardo. And East Syracuse Middle Athletics is rich in history and tradition. It is the purpose of the Athletic Hall of Fame to honor and reward the achievements of those individuals and teams who have made outstanding contributions in participating, coaching, or supporting sports by induction into the East Syracuse Manoa Athletic Hall of Fame. And to get us started tonight, head football coach Kevin Park.
Everyone else could be putting it up. Good evening. I'd like to first of all recognize and congratulate all of the inductees tonight, even though I'm only speaking about one. I think it's equal accomplishments across the board of all of our inductees. I had the honor and privilege to actually introduce the first inductee of the class of 15, which is my first nomination. I've been at ESM for 24 years. Been head football coach for 18 years. I get to introduce Josh Anderson, who is very special to me in a lot of ways. He and I kind of started this thing about the same time. And and being on the Hall of Fame committee, one thing that we're always talking about is time. We got to, with Bobby Campisi running this, who's incredibly organized and efficient. We can't take a lot of time. We got to stay on schedule. So I came up here saying that, you know what? I'm going to wow the crowd. When we have our post-conference meeting, I had the best, or the shortest introduction. He said he had 4 minutes. I timed mine out. It's less than 4 minutes, but after talking to some of the guys tonight, I think I'm going to take my 4. Sorry, Bobby. Josh Anderson was a 2002 graduate of ESM and a well-accomplished 3-sport athlete. Although we're going to emphasize football tonight, which was his main sport, Josh was equally accomplished in all of his sports, and we don't see a lot of 3-sport athletes today. But if Josh focused on any one of his sports, I think he would be here tonight for that specific sport. I know he played basketball, and he was also a track runner. And he had the ability to probably have that as his highlight sport. Thankfully to me, in the football program, he chose football. When I think of Josh and his impact on the ESM football program, I don't think of his accolades, of his remarkable statistics, but more about what he left behind. Josh was one of the few players that I still reference when I speak to our teams of today. I speak of his leadership, his high moral character, and his work ethic. Josh is hands down probably the best practice player I've ever coached. And what I mean by that is every snap in practice was a game for Josh. He practiced the way he played. And as coaches, and those coaches that are here tonight, I think can really appreciate that, because we always say you have to practice like you play. Josh took that to heart. When we did sprints, if we lined up for 40-yard sprints, Josh would line himself up for a 45-yard sprint, and he beat everybody. Over the years, I've had people say to me, based on our successes since Josh, how would I like to have had Josh on our present teams? And we've had a lot of success lately in the last 10 years. My immediate response is, no, I wouldn't want Josh on these teams. If we didn't have Josh when we had him, we wouldn't be where we are today. For so many reasons, I believe that. Josh set the standard on what we can expect from kids as people and as players. One of Josh's greatest gifts was that he made his peers and his coaches better. He made his coaches better. He made us better as educators, which made us better as coaches. After high school, Josh carried his craft to Division I Stony Brook University, where he performed at a very high level and still remains to this day in the record. When looking at Josh's high school statistics and accomplishments, one has to look at the story behind the numbers. As we all know, those of us who are very sports-minded, generations are different, eras are different, it's very difficult to compare generations. And that's why I say we have to look beyond the numbers. As you can see in your program, and I won't mention them all, the number of records Josh owns in his career placement in ESM lore are quite astonishing. What people do not know is that Josh's career numbers are based on 2-year varsity performance. Now, Josh played for us for 3 years, but he played mainly defense as a sophomore. His statistics, which are still in the ESM record, but are based on 2 years. Most of the statistics that you see, especially in football for records, are based on 3-year statistics. Josh made his mark at ESM in 2 years. Anyone ahead of Josh is based on him in those 3 years. It was remarkable the numbers Josh put up during that time period. Josh played in a time period where the game was still more conservative than the wide open game that we see today. Therefore, Josh always had to contend with the opponent, knowing that Josh was the featured player and he was the one that they had to stop. Week in and week out, Josh took on that challenge with grace and humility. I am proud to say he was never stopped by any team. I recall one moment when we were warming up before a game and the opposing coach came up to me and said, "Is Anderson going to carry the ball 30 times tonight?" My response was, if I'm smart, he is. Josh went on to carry the ball 28 times that night, rushed for 285 yards, had 4 touchdowns. He averaged 10 yards a carry that night. And what ended up being a shootout, we only won by 1 touchdown. After the game, the coach came up to me and said, "You were pretty smart tonight." I said, "That was just Josh being Josh." One last story. It's not going to be my last, Bobby. Last night it was. But this kind of epitomizes who Josh is in a lot of ways. We're playing a playoff game over at Whitesboro. Whitesboro is the #1 seed. They're like 5th in New York State. We're the very last team to qualify for the tournament. So we want to get out of there alive. We played a great game. We lose in the last few minutes of the game. Thanks, Bubba. I got permission to say that tonight. Yeah. Josh played a phenomenal game. He rushed for a bunch of yards, returned a kickoff for a touchdown, and everything else you can imagine. After the game, a reporter for the Utica Times came up to me and talked about Josh. Now, one thing you have to know, especially in football, after a game's over with, the media, they're always going to the winning team. They're always asking for that information. He came up to the team that lost, especially in Utica. We're from Syracuse, and they give us no love down there. He interviews Josh for a few minutes, and Josh, I don't know if you remember this or not, but he interviewed you, and then we're off the field, we're on our way out, and then we're probably about 20 minutes later, it took us 20 minutes, half hour to get on the bus. We're heading out on the bus, and the reporter pulls me aside, and he says, I want you to know that Josh Anderson is an incredible young man. He didn't talk about his athletic ability. He knew what it was. He said he's one of the nicest guys I ever interviewed. And that's coming from the home team. And that tells you a little bit about who Josh is. And I really mean it when I say that ESM football today is where it is because of the likes of Josh Anderson. He did it all with humility. He never let the guys who had less ability than he had were marginalized. He always told them that they could be better. And here's what was impressive about Josh, is that anytime coaches got on another player, Josh said that he was, I'll do better so you can do better. And one example is of that, and it's not one of my proudest moments, I will say this, as a coach, is that we're playing over at Fayetteville Manlius. And Fayetteville Manlius was 5-1, it's week 7, we're playing a non-league game against Fayetteville Manlius, we're 4-2. We have a pretty good year. And we're not playing well. We're losing 21-6 at halftime. Now mind you, this is how good Fayetteville Manlius was. They had 4 kids on that football team that played major college football. One kid went to Kansas State, 2 kids went to Syracuse, and another kid went to Wisconsin. And ESM's star player is a Division I football player going to Stony Brook. So we're a little bit outmatched. We're down 21-6 at halftime, and we're not playing well. And I'm fired up as a young coach. We go in that locker room, and there wasn't a lot of X and O adjustment to make at halftime. It was more about we got to get into these kids, and we got to get them fired up and tell them that they can play with these guys. And Josh's playing his heart out, and he's getting beaten up. And one of my assistants here, Todd Freeman's here, I remember talking to him at halftime saying, if Josh takes any more of this punishment, this is going to be an ugly game. Not one of my prouder moments. We're in there at halftime, and we're on a terrazzo floor. These kids got cleats on. And we're playing on grass. We're cheating a little bit. We tell kids put the little bit longer cleats in. And Josh has got these cleats this big, and he's sliding all over that floor in the locker room. And I grab, now, mind you, everyone's 6 foot to me. Everybody. I grabbed Josh by the face mask. Administration, we could do that then. They do that now, and I don't. And I go around to our offensive line. Now Josh is down here like this because I'm not 6 foot. And I go to every one of our offensive linemen. You see this kid right here? You're getting his rear end kicked. And I go to every one offensive line, right through the locker room. You're getting his butt kicked. You're getting his butt kicked. And Josh is behind me saying, I'll do better. I'll do better. I'll do better. That's Josh Anderson. We come out in the second half, we play a phenomenal game. We lose in the last 2 minutes of the game. It didn't matter if we won or lost that game. It was how we finished it. And we finished it because of Josh Anderson and the person that he is. Ladies and gentlemen, Joshua Anderson.
Thank you, Coach, for the pretty solid introduction. Truly honored to be here, accepting this award, joining the ESM class Hall of Fame in 2015. It's a great privilege. I was actually surprised when Coach called me to even ask me if it was okay to nominate me. So it was just no words. Really, I don't know. But thank you, Coach, for nominating me. And thank you for the committee for inducting me into the Hall of Fame. I played 3 fun and successful years for ESM football. We may have finished as my career as just a 500 team, but like Coach was saying, I believe that the hard work that I was putting in was, and my teammates, we were laying a foundation for future football players. We were often going in the weight room before school, staying in the weight room after school, and then all summer long, we spent a lot of time working out together and building a tight-knit unit. It's very rewarding to me to see where DePard, his current coaching staff, and current players are every year, competing for sectionals, playing for states. It's just amazing to see where they've come. I also like the coaching staff that I played for, Coach Freeman, Coach Martell, Eschbacher, and DePard, for pushing us every day to be better football players and to be better teammates and young men on the field and off the field. They pushed us to practice hard. We ran lots of perimeters, which if you don't know what that is, it's running laps around all the sporting fields. And I always made sure that we kept our team close. We would run these perimeters, never leave a man behind. And if there was someone falling behind, other captains and I would slow down, drop to the end of the line, and bring them up with us and push them to the finish. I also like to thank Coach Powell. He was our strength and conditioning coach, and he had lots of fun workouts. He did new equipment every summer. He would have his parachutes and sleds that he would find the muddiest areas of the field somehow and let us drag them through the mud because it was so much easier. Sorry, this is quite a bit. There's actually tonight a couple teammates in the crowd. I want to thank them for coming and sharing this moment with me. You guys helped accomplish this, all the hard work that we put in together. High school football gave me a lot of memorable events, I guess you can say. Coach pulling me around FM on a nice tile floor. And all the days of practice, like you said, I did enjoy practice. We like to push each other, and it showed. I mean, 500 for us was, I think, a very good accomplishment. Then I'd like to thank my mom, my grandparents. They're not here with us today, but they supported us through the years, supported me through the years, and helped me become successful in life. They drove us all over the place, basketball tournaments, football, summer football camps. So thank you, Mom. It's greatly appreciated. And I'd like to extend thank you to all my friends and family that are here that we might not have been that close during those times, but I love having you guys as family now, and those things have made me stronger as a person. And then last but not least, I'd like to say congratulations to the rest of the inductees. I feel very privileged to be part of such an accomplished group of athletes. Just reading their stats is beyond amazing to me. Like I said, I feel honored and privileged to be part of it. Thank you.
Just to give you an idea of how this process works, the committee receives nominations. It's the only way somebody can be selected for the Hall of Fame. So if there's anybody that you feel is deserving, please nominate them. And then the committee, which includes Mike Albanese and Bob Campese and Luann Campese, Kevin DePard, myself, Jim Gorney, Karen Stuper, and Kathy Sullivan, we meet, we discuss, and we select. So a special thanks to those committee members for all their hard work. This artwork here these photos were printed and resized by Kim Canistria and Peter Valenti. The program cover is by student Nate Hill, and the posters that were down the hallway were by a couple of students as well. So just a little bit of information. Our next speaker is Doug Hartman, class of 2011. Were you inducted in 2011? No, 2011. So, Doug Hartman.
Well, Kevin said 4 minutes, and Bob never told me any time, so I'm gonna try to beat Gary's records.
Not really.
First of all, I want to say that I'm privileged to be here tonight, and it's a real honor to be able to talk with people out here that I haven't seen for a while, and seeing some of the athletes that are now being inducted, and old teachers that I worked with and everything else. And I got the info from Jimmy Kilpatrick at the beginning how the game really went, and I almost fell asleep because wrestlers and basketball players are kind of not the same, but it was great talking to them. And also the Hall of Fame people that are here, and also I wanted to say, the parents and the administrators and everybody's here are real great, and I didn't want to say this, but I'm going to athletic supporters. And I'm a big one. Joe Labatt has been very interested in fitness training, martial arts, and wrestling his whole life. His father got him started by buying him weights and other equipment at the age of 6. He's still very involved in fitness by being a certified fitness trainer and having his own fitness club, Get Fit Club, in Eastwood Plaza. Joe is married to Anna, and they have 7 children and 3 grandchildren. And I didn't think I was old enough for one of my former students to have grandchildren, but I guess I am. But Joe's here tonight for his wrestling skill. Joe started his ESM career at the Fremont Elementary School and wrestled for 3 years in the elementary school wrestling tournament, which we used to have at ESM. And then he went on to 7th, 8th grade and wrestled at Pine Grove on their modified team. As an 8th grader, went undefeated. As a 9th grader, he wrestled on a 9th grade team, because back then we didn't bring people up. We had a 9th grade team, and we used to have 15, 20 kids on that team, and it was another chance for them to get the wrestling experience. And Joe went 6-1-1. As a 10th, and 11th, and 12th grader, Joe wrestled on the varsity team under the coaching of Bob Rystrom, who I'm sure would love to be here tonight, and compiled a record of 88 wins, 10 losses, and had 38 pins. He went 25-7 as a 98-pounder as a sophomore, and then went to the states and placed 4th in the state tournament. He was 32-1 as a junior and wrestled at 105 in the 105 weight class, and he placed placed 2nd in the state tournament. As a senior, Joe went 31-2 in 105, 100-pound weight class, 112-pound weight class, and placed 3rd in the state tournament at 105. Joe was also on sophomore. When he was a sophomore, the wrestling team won the sectional team tournament, which is the only time in ESM's history that we've ever won the sectionals as a team. When he graduated in 1979, Joe was offered a scholarship to Syracuse and an invitation to participate in the Olympic training camp. So Joe's had a fantastic career here, not really anymore, here at ESM. One of the things that, one last point that I'd like to bring up is that all the athletics, the real concern is that Joe had a great attitude, and that's very, very important for any athlete who wants to be good. You got to have that good attitude. Think that nobody's going to beat me, and that I'm going to do all the hard work that I can, which Joe always seemed to do. Even though I wasn't the head coach at the time, I was an assistant coach, and I worked with Joe and all the other teammates, and I know that he had a great attitude, and he was very, very influential in affecting other people. I have 2 little stories here, and they're both basically the same, but I think it shows to me the attitude that Joe had. And I think as a sophomore, he had lost to a Ballsville wrestler, Carl Cristella, and I'm amazed that I can remember these names. I guess that's how good I was, and I used them at other times. And I think he lost to him in the Class A tournament, which is the week before. And the next week, he beat Cristella in the finals, so he'd go on to the state tournament. He was a Section 3 champion. Another almost very similar example of that as a senior, Joe, and I'm not quite as sure, is lost to a kid from Spencerport in the Beagle tournament, I believe it was. And then he met him at the state tournament for third and fourth place, and he beat him at the state tournament. So twice, Joe wrestled guys that had beaten him earlier, and a lot of times in wrestling, for those who aren't wrestlers, it's kind of tough. Oh, that guy beat me up last time, or he beat me last time. That's going to be tough to beat. And twice, Joe did it. So I think that's a real accomplishment for him. I think he had a great career at ESM. He had a record of 88-10, many tournament champions, 3-time Section 3 champion, and placed 4th, 2nd, and 3rd in the New York State Championship. He had an amazing career at East Syracuse High School. Joe Labatt. Need 'em, but I don't like to wear 'em.
My wife and family told me I needed to prepare something all week. I said I didn't have to say anything. So I'm just going to share my heart. I had a really awesome experience at ESM, and I have to say it was a great school. It got me to that stepping stone in the next part of my life. And yes, I did start martial arts back in the mid-60s, and I carried on through most of my life, and the wrestling played a big part of that. It all fits in part of the whole thing with martial arts: wrestling, grappling. Very interesting to me. I felt that was a good fit for my person as a sport, even though it was an individual sport. Mr. Hartman and I talked about that. It was also a team sport. In my senior year, I did wrestle 112, but back then the rules were you had to wrestle half the season at the weight class if you were going to be in the tournament at tournament time. So, and that I remember how hard that was to accomplish, but nonetheless, it was a great experience. I look at it that I shared with you is that I've learned a lot of things from that, and any athlete would know that it takes a lot of hard work and dedication and sacrifice, and times you have to endure when you don't want to push forward. So I have a little thing in the gym. It's called Old School in our little gym, and I listed a lot of those things I said to remind me what it takes sometimes, whether someone wants to change their lifestyle or get in shape or pursue athletic career, is that these are some of the principles that are needed to advance forward. Well, I took some of that also after that brief time, because everything in my life, all of our lives, is a season, and that was a very small, short season in my life that I'm forever thankful for, that I got to experience. But those principles are the same when you apply it to life, and so I'm thankful that I was able to find a career that fit me at that time, that I was able to exercise those things. I think it helped me become well, I strive to be a good provider, and I wanted to provide for my wife and my family, and yes, we did have a very big family, and my wife has made a lot of sacrifices as well because of so many kids. And but I'm so thankful for them all. And I'll let you know, this is not great, but down here is, and it's a lot of stress, but good stress. But I just want to say that I'm so appreciative of the coaches of my time, and Mr. Rystrom, Mr. Hartman were so great and inspirational, I would have to say. And the times when you sat in the corner, I'll never forget. I've mentioned this before to you, is that I would always hear your voice when you were in the corner. Even in the States, you were there, I could hear your voice. And they were guys that I realize even more now than I did then, sacrifice away from family and on the vacations and everything else that they did just so that they can help fulfill a dream of a young man. And forever I'm thankful for that. And I also want to thank my wife and the beautiful person she is and has been to me in support, and all my kids, and for our grandchildren too. And I want to thank, this is just who I am, I want to thank my Lord Jesus for helping me be taking those principles and applying them into our marriage, and helping me be a better husband, a better father, because that all goes back to all that time for me, and those things I experienced, that I learned how to apply that in my life. And so yes, I am thankful. Thanks.
We need a shorter MC. Just wanted to recognize some of the patrons who made some donations that make this evening possible. The Bona family, Griffin, Sheldon, Astorino, Albanese, Avellino, Campese, Collins, Comstock, DePard, Gorney, Gowan, McEachran, and Verzino families. So thank you. To introduce our next inductee is committee member Jim Gorney. And if you follow ESM Morning Show on Twitter, we're tweeting this live.
I wasn't nervous until just now. We need a shorter presenter. My earliest recollection of April was at a meeting of elementary school physical education teachers way back in 1993, trying to get ready for our annual elementary school track meet. I think everybody here knows what that is. It's been around for some 41 or 42 years. Afterwards, Nick Cicero, the teacher at Kinney Street Elementary back then, came up to me and told me about a young lady in the 4th grade that I, as a head track coach, had to keep my eye on. 2 years later, in the same meeting, I called Nick aside after the meeting and explained to him that there is such a thing as a participant only running in 2 events, so that other people from his school could actually participate in the meet. I knew that Nick, being as competitive as he was going to try to run April Rushy in as many events as possible so that Kinney Street could kick everybody's butt. We have since called that 2-event rule the April rule. Next year, April was entering Pine Grove Junior High School at that time as a 7th grader, and although I can't remember exactly where I was, I'm sure I would put myself at the front door greeting April Rushy as she walked through that door for the first time at Pine Grove. because I knew, after watching her for 3 years in the elementary school, that she was going to run varsity track as a 7th grader. There was no doubt. I did take notice. She was fast, she was powerful, she could jump. And of course, over the next several years, she would prove to everyone that ever saw her that she was one of the best athletes to ever attend ESM. Statistically, April has won 13 varsity letters, 11 in indoor and outdoor track, and 2 as a first-team all-leaguer on Milt Valerio soccer teams. She still is the all-time leader in track history in individual points scored over her career, also in individual league titles and in individual sectional titles, and there are too many to count, quite frankly. But what made her real special was her intelligence. She understood track strategy at the team level, not just what she was doing, but at the team level. She knew the matchups from team to team and how we could maximize our strengths and take advantage of other teams' weaknesses. She was an inspirational leader of her own team. After we won a team championship in 1999, one of our other coaches, Coach Bill Taddeo, came up to me and informed me of how relieved the entire team was for first, not disappointing me because I thought we were supposed to win, but probably more importantly, not disappointing April. One of her highlights, though, was in a meet that she didn't win. April had been experienced over the course of a few years experimenting with the javelin in limited competitions, and she even won 2 Scholastic Empire State Games golds in the javelin, although not really working on it very much. She really didn't take it that seriously, but I knew that April had a great throwing arm, and I wondered if I could sneak her into the Penn Relays, which happens to be the largest track meet in the world that's larger than the Olympics. There's some 8,000 competitors down at the Penn Relays, nationwide, internationally, you name it. The problem was, though, that April had only thrown 110 feet in one of her Empire State Games, and the qualifying standard for the Penn Relays was 119 feet. Back in the late 90s, the internet wasn't really hyped up as much as it was today, and not every effort that you threw or jumped or ran showed up on the internet. So I thought I'd give it a shot, and I entered her at 120 feet, 10 inches, I think it was, something like that, which is just over the qualifying standard. And I used the ESM Invitational as the place where she got that mark. Well, in 1999, there was no ESM. In 1999, we didn't have an all-weather track. It was dirt. But I was the meet director, and if the Penn Relays people were going to contact somebody, they would be contacting me. So there was an ESM Invitational in my mind. I knew that she was going to be close no matter what. So there we were, on our way down to the Penn Relays. We got information that she was accepted. So we started working at it more seriously. April even bought a javelin. I don't know, because we didn't have one. We worked on all the aspects of the javelin, the approach, the release, you name it, we worked on it. But in order to get more reps, we decided we were going to get a football. And I don't know, April, you remember, we threw a lot of football back in those days. And I liked it simply because I was in my late 40s. Don't do the math. Don't do the math. And I thought I could still throw pretty well. I thought I had a pretty good gun. So April and I would play a lot of catch because, quite frankly, you could get more reps in throwing a football than you could throwing a javelin. And besides that, it's hard to play catch with a javelin. So there's a lot of reps going on there. So I decided I was going to show off, and after we warmed up, I could still, Coach DeBard, I was still throwing back then 50 yards. The problem was, and I'm showing off, the problem was I'm throwing to a high school girl who not only was catching the 50-yard pass, but throwing it back to me. So it really wasn't so much showing off. So we got down, when we arrived, my only advice to April, my only coaching cue to April was, 119 feet's a long ways. Please don't embarrass me. Her first throw after warm-ups, the top 20 people in the country, by the way, are there. You know, the competition is just tremendous. The best throwers in the country are at this meet. New York State happens to be the only state, we are surrounded by javelin throwing states. Pennsylvania, Ohio, Connecticut, they all throw the javelin. New York State does not. So, there's a New Yorker down there throwing the javelin. Her first throw went 126 feet, something like that, and I'm like, whew, I'm off the hook. I'm not an idiot. The next throw, she's running down there's a long runway approach for the javelin, there's a scratch line. She lets the thing go, and the velocity on this javelin was something I had not seen. It was a perfect velocity, it was a perfect angle of release. It landed at 139 feet 10 inches and shocked me. I just fell over it. And it was good for a 5th place medal in the largest track meet in the world, and it was the 10th best throw in the United States. And that just shows what kind of athlete that April was. April competed in about every event in high school, and every school record she set, with the exception of the pole vault, and she actually did lead the section in the pole vault in its infancy at 9 feet 3 inches. But she wasn't really a pole vaulter, but she set a number of school records, and with the exception of pole vault, she still holds 4. As a matter of fact, she still has a Section 3 best in both the javelin, which obviously is not thrown a lot anymore in New York State, and also the indoor heptathlon. And as you can read in your book, she went to Syracuse University to participate in track, immediately set the heptathlon record up there, and anybody knows what the heptathlon is. It's 7 events combined for point total, so you are the all-round athlete. If you look at the decathlon in the Olympics, that decathlon winner is called the greatest athlete in the world. So heptathlete women are great athletes. So she held that record there. She also became an academic All-American, not surprisingly, since her academics are at the top of the list. Since Syracuse, she started teaching social studies in the Syracuse City School District, and now coordinates community service learning projects for that district. In 2011, April discovered the sport of jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and in just 3 short years, won a world championship. This year, she plans on participating in that sport from Brazil to Italy, and I am pleased and honored to introduce the ESM Athletic Hall of Fame, April Rushy.
I, like Joe, thought that they were joking with me when they said that I did have to say something. I kept laughing, but now I find out it is a reality. I'd like to start off by talking about kind of my journey through ESM, which I hope that many of our children and our students are currently also taking that same journey. It started off at Woodland. I remember being in Woodland, I think I was in kindergarten or 1st grade, when somebody in gym class told me that I was really good at sports. And that was the first time that anybody had said I was really good at something. And I was like, I am? I was like, cool. They're like, can you do a gym night for everyone? And I said, sure, what's that? And they said, you're just going to do some demonstrations for parents. That was one of the first things that had sparked my interest in doing sports at all. I found myself kind of running more when I was at home, trying to climb, trying to do push-ups, doing bicep curls with my brother. And then I found myself at Kinney Street with Nick Sestero, who many of you probably know in the audience tonight. Nick, I believe, was kind of at the forefront of physical education, especially for our district. He really wanted all kids to be active. He had running clubs going back in the late 80s, early 90s, which was pretty, again, progressive. And he would always tell me, April, you're an amazing athlete. And I would look at him and I go, yeah, you know, that's another person saying I'm really good. So I'm kind of building this support system as I'm going through ESM. ESM also would put on a summer camp that I would go to, and at the time they had Kadri Ishmael, who is known as the Rocket, a professional football player that had played for the Vikings. He had raced me on the track, gave me a head start, by the way, because he was actually going to participate in the Olympics that year. I think it was like a 40-meter head start, and I still beat him. And he's like, she's so fast, you're so good, make sure you stick with sports. To me, that was like another positive in my pocket of, wow, maybe I really can do something with these sports. And then I have, in the audience today, as I look over, I see Mr. Stevenson, I see the Reardons. They were my early softball coaches, always very supportive, urging me to play sports, urging me to play more sports. And I say, yeah, I love softball too. So I played with the Reardons for a while, and they left a very positive impact on me. I arrive, of course, as Mr. Gorney described it, at Pine Grove, and I'm immediately greeted, pretty much immediately, like he said, by himself, Mr. Taddeo, and Mrs. Depard joined shortly after, all of them really being supportive and saying, you know what, you're really good at track, let's stick with this, let's really work hard and see where this can bring you. At the time, really sports was what drove me to do well in school, and I think that a lot of people are you know, they understand that concept, and I'm like, you know, I got to do really good in schools to make sure that I can do sports, and so those things really taught me a balance in life that I took with me to today. Mr. Rystrom, when I entered into the high school, I would peek around the corner into the weightlifting room, and he would see me, and I would duck back behind, and he said, why don't you come in and lift weights? And I said, I don't know, there's a lot of guys in here. And he goes, you can come in and lift weights. So Mr. Rystrom talks me into going into the weight room and lifting weights. And I still lift weights to today. I'm confident when I go into the gym. He helped me tremendously in my athletic career. Mr. Powell would be next, keeping me healthy, constantly trying to keep me doing the right things, stretching, leading a good conditioning program. And Mr. Valerio, who would stalk me from the time that I was in 8th grade. Literally, just this guy screaming at me all the time, April! April! When do you want to play soccer? I don't want to play soccer. They're always whining and crying and falling on the floor and stuff. And he's like, no, play. So 8th grade, I decided to play soccer, and it was one of the best decisions I had ever made. Miss Comstock's here in the audience today. I saw Jillian Delora, I saw Michelle Hall. These people became like my family. Again, I'm stressing all of these people because it was a support system that was really built that showed me that I was capable of doing amazing things. And so any negativity I ever heard, or anything else that I heard a lot, it was easy to brush off because I had so many people in my life that told me I could do amazing things. This basically comes full circle as I look at what I do for a career now. I'm very passionate about creating experiences for the inner city youth that I work with for the reasons of every single person that I mentioned today. It takes one person to believe in a kid and to nourish and nurture them to grow into a good athlete and a good person. And every single person that I also mentioned, it wasn't just about athletics. It was about being a good person. It was about being dedicated, about being passionate, about being consistent, about being organized. And I think we're all coaches in that sense when we're working with children. And although we're here to honor us today, I feel like it's honoring many of the people that were able to actually get us to the positions that we are in life. I all the time hear still Mr. Valerio's voice. I hear Mr. Gorney's voice when I'm training for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu now, which, again, I still train. I leave Tuesday for Portugal to compete in the European Open. And I hear them constantly, their words, don't quit, you always want to try hard, you know, etc. And these are the life lessons that I also hope to give to children. And also that I hope people that are going through ESM currently are experiencing the same, I guess, paths that I have. So thank you so much to everyone that allowed me to be a part of this journey. And I'm so happy to share it with so many people that showed up today. My mom and my dad, of course, for the same reasons like Josh had said, carting us all over the country, you know, sending us on flights, funding us, so that we were able to accomplish as much as we could. Mr. Gorney also for doing the same. He really went out of his way to bring me to track meets all over the country and get me the exposure that I needed for college. So I'm honored. I thank my family and my friends, my aunt and my uncle for coming today, and I'm ecstatic about this opportunity. Thank you so much.
I tried to get her to play basketball too. My daughter was complaining about a workout I was putting her through the other day. Then I showed her a training video of April's and she became quiet instantly. Those things are intense. Joe Tolhurst was a 1936 graduate of East Syracuse High School and was a main contributor in the multiple championship teams from 1934 to 1936. He played on a championship basketball teams that defeated Split Rock High School, which is West Jenny, for 2 consecutive years and helped win 2 county championships in that time. East Syracuse won 40 straight games. The Syracuse newspaper from 1936 noted that the just closed season was probably the most successful and brilliant in the history of East Syracuse High School. The team not having suffered a single defeat the entire season, winning 40 games on the regular schedule and coming through in brilliant fashion in the final for the county championship. Joel Tolhurst scored the winning basket to win the 40th game. And according to the East Syracuse coach Willard Smith, Joe played consistently good basketball and baseball throughout his years in East Syracuse. He also played on the All-East team in basketball. Joe graduated from St. Lawrence University in 1941 with a degree in psychology. He was inducted into the St. Lawrence Athletic Hall of Fame, where the plaque reads, "Joe is considered to be one of the finest basketball players in St. Lawrence history, leading in scoring every year." His scoring record stood for 20 years. Joe also captained both the basketball and baseball teams, and upon graduation, he was awarded the Most Outstanding Senior Athlete Award. Joe entered the military following the attack on Pearl Harbor in 1942. While in the Army for 6 years, he still somehow managed to stay active athletically. While stationed at Fort Niagara, he played basketball for the base team. While stationed in England, awaiting the D-Day invasion, he organized baseball and basketball teams and laid out fields and courts for both. Joe waded ashore on Omaha Beach in Normandy. And following World War II, Joe attended Boston University and earned his master's degree in education. Joe began his teaching career in Hilton, New York, and retired from that same school district. During his tenure there, he was a physical educator, a highly successful coach in multiple sports, and athletic director. He was awarded the Hilton Community Hall of Fame Award as a respected member of the community for working with the youth of the village, leaving many people with a better sense of well-being and understanding. The Henry Street School gym was named at the Joseph Tolhurst Gymnasium in his honor. Finally, Joe was inducted into the Hilton Schools Athletic Hall of Fame. Joe resides now in East Syracuse with his wife of 58 years, Rosemary, who is also an educator, and accepting on his behalf is Rosemary Tolhurst.
On behalf of Joe, I accept this. I cannot climb a rope, I cannot beat a ball, I cannot run a race. So accepting this athletic honor is really something for me. I never received it. Joe loved East Syracuse High School. He loved St. Lawrence University. He liked the Army. And he loved his teaching job, all of which were related to athletics. He finally, when he was working, he was able to work with young people, which he really liked. And his 95th birthday, he had a party. Kids were there that were in their 70s, in his class. And he does not see well, 98 years old. I said to these guys, Joe remembers you the way you were as a teenager, so, so anyway, this, and it was really something that I appreciate. Oh, by the way, he, rejected an NBA, candidate to take a teaching job instead. So that's how he feels about working with young people. That's it.
To introduce Milton Valerio, Krista Rezafi, and if Mel gets talking too fast, we'll have to translate, so you don't, maybe don't go too far.
Wow, this is such an incredible honor to be able to introduce Coach Milton Valerio. I don't think I can sum up Milton in 3 to 4 minutes, but I'm really going to try my best. Most of you know why Milt is being inducted tonight into the Hall of Fame. He is the winningest coach in Section 3 with over 400 wins. He coached a team to the state semis. He won 1 regional championship, has 7 sectional titles, 14 league titles. He was league coach of the year twice, and was nominated for, or was chosen as Post Standard Coach of the Year. I could go on and on about Milt and all of his accomplishments, but what I want to tell you is a little bit about the man behind all those achievements. I first met Milt back a long time ago at William Smith Soccer Camp, where I was a counselor while in college and he was a coach. All I knew about Milt was that he was this little, loud Spanish coach. He yelled a lot. And he did not want to ref his games. I was afraid to ref his game. I was like, oh no. But anyways, that first night of camp, the counselors were able to hang out with the coaches, and I quickly found out that this intense, intimidating coach was just a big teddy bear with the most infectious laugh and the best personality ever. Fast forward 2 years, and I end up sitting next to him at Sticks and Kicks in Manoa, and he remembers me, and he asked me, he's like, what are you doing for the next couple months? And I'm like, I don't know, why? And he's like, I need an assistant coach. You want to be my assistant coach? I'm like, well, sure. And so that's where this meeting would end up being 12 seasons of coaching together and a lifelong friendship. And from my first day out on the field with Milt, I could see he was a fantastic coach with an undeniable love of the game of soccer. He took this love and wisdom and was able to share it with all the athletes that were fortunate enough to play for him. Milt taught these young, impressionable ladies so much, not only about soccer, but also about valuable life lessons. Milt made sure they always looked professional when they got off that bus or walked out of the locker room. Their shirts were tucked in, their warm-ups were zipped up, their bags were lined up perfectly behind the bench. These girls were representing ESM, and Milt had them prepared and ready to play. Milt was always organized and made sure that the girls were too. Practice was always scheduled to start at 4 p.m. But what did that mean in Mr. B's world? You better be there at 3:45, else you're late and you're running laps. Every practice, every game or meeting, Milt was always there early to prepare the girls to ensure they received the absolute best of him. And that's what Milt did as a coach. He gave the girls the very best of him, and he expected that in return. Was he tough on them? You bet he was. And did the girls like it or understand it at the time? Not always. But what he was doing was teaching these girls not only the game of soccer, but he's also helping to shape them into responsible, disciplined young ladies. I can't tell you the number of times we'd be at practice, and we'd be standing there and somebody would run up to him and give him a giant hug, and I'd be like, oh my God, who is this lady? And it would be one of his former players coming back to see Mr. B. They'd be home from college or visiting, and they just wanted to give Mr. B a hug and say thank you to him for all that they had taught them and what he had meant to them. And the best thing was Alianza Soccer Camp every summer. It was a treat to see all Milt's former players. They would show up with their daughters in tow, and you could see the thrill in their faces as they turned their daughters over to their favorite soccer coach. Milt was certainly an ambassador for ESM and their girls' soccer program. Everywhere we went, I mean everywhere, near or far, everybody knew Milt. I've never met someone that knew so many people. And let me give you a little example of this. After I moved down to North Carolina, I invited Milt to come down to see the NCAA women's finals. We're walking through the stands, we're going to sit down and find a seat, and someone's like, "Hey, Milt!" And I'm like, "Who knows you in North Carolina?" I'm like, oh my gosh. So little do I know, some coach that he's known and played against a long time ago whisks him away into this private tent for, you know, elite coaches and ambassadors, and I sat outside and froze my butt off. And needless to say, everyone knew Milt. There was never an off season for Milt. As soon as the season ended, Alianza would begin. And he had the girls training to get ready for all the winter and spring tournaments. In the summer, he could be found holding Alianza camp, meeting the girls at Woodland to run or to work on their skills. And he also had his league at Maxwell Park running so the girls could play some more. All this was done on his own personal time, and that's how much this program meant to him. It wasn't the wins or the titles that drove him to do all this. He just loved to coach these girls that were like daughters to him. Milt can be found these days down in Raleigh, North Carolina. In the fall, he's busy helping to coach the women's soccer team at Meredith College. Milt also plays 3 times a week pickup, and he just finished playing in a tournament with Anson Dorrance, the head UNC soccer coach for women, on a men's U65 team. He keeps busy in the summer working girls soccer camps. He keeps busy in the summer working girls soccer camps at Meredith College and Duke and UNC Chapel Hill. I'd have to say Milt is definitely in soccer heaven. I would need hours to go over all of Milt's accomplishments and all that he's meant to the ESM girls soccer program. But all you need to see is the love and respect of all the girls that are here that played for him, and what the former players that he has that, sorry, this tricks me up a little. All you need to see is the love and respect that his former players have for him to understand why he's being inducted into the ESM Athletic Hall of Fame class of 2015. And Mr. Valerio, Mr. Andala Miracles, Mr. Unbelievable Milton Valerio.
Increíble. Not in the middle.
Qué honor tan grande. Speaking in my native language, I'm a little nervous but excited. Beyond words to see some of my former players here and what they mean to me. First, I want to thank the faculty of ESM that was so supportive during my time there. I want to thank my modified coaches, my junior varsity coaches. I want to thank Jennifer Mulcahy is here, Jeannie Mingoya, my coaches. Special thanks to Bernie Descani and my daughter, Krista. Special thanks, they stuck with me so many times. Mr. Powell for keeping other girls in shape all through those years. And for nominating me for this great honor, Mr. Vasilov. Thank you very much. I love you. I want to thank my 3 sons, all those games that I missed because I was coaching. I want to thank them for being here. I want to thank probably the most important person in my life, Teresa. Thank you for everything. And like I said, this is a great honor to be here, to be inducted with all these great people over here. I remember some of the great trips that we took in season, off season. We went to Shenandoah Hall. I used to take all the girls to different tournaments so they can be prepared to play different, how you say, type of soccer. Because in Albany they play differently, in Rochester they play differently. So I try to take trips so they get used to different kinds of how to play soccer, the tactics that go on there. because a lot of them went to college and play, so I wanted them to be ready for that. But probably what I'm the most proud of is what good person they'll turn out to be. When I get a text or get an email from them and they tell me how well they're doing, oh, Mr. B, I just got another son. I got another daughter, congratulations. My job is doing this, and it just makes me feel happy to be known that they still, keep in touch with me. It's an honor again, like I said, to be inducted with these great inductees. I want to thank the ESM for supporting me during those years, and I don't know what else to say. Thank you very much for everything. Love you guys. Thank you all my players for being here.
Just a reminder, after the award ceremony, there's going to be a happy hour pizza for anyone who wants to stick around. Our next inductee probably will be the most shy when she comes up here. But when picking the tables, I made sure that I had a chance to sit with Megan. She played basketball for me back in the day. We don't want to start dating that time period. I know Kent's going to talk softball, but she was a heck of a basketball player. Was on an 18-2 team when we played Corcoran, Central Square, Nottingham, the big schools, and we were kind of laughing that each one of those teams, every single team sent a girl Division I, and they went 18-2. It was a heck of a season. So to talk about her softball playing is Kent Reardon.
Before I talk about Megan, I just want to say, being at the sports awards ceremony, standing between Milt Valerio and Gary Becker, it's like being in a bad time machine movie. My name's Kent Reardon. I'm the varsity softball coach at ESM. My first year of coaching, I coached the JV team. And on that team, I had 15 sophomores and one little freshman, Megan Becchiano. And playing AA softball, we went 19-3 that year. And I got to tell you, I thought I was a genius. We went 19-3 in my first year. I thought I'd be coaching the Yankees in a couple of years. Well, anyway, the next year Meg went on to bigger and better things, and it's a lot of years later, and I'm still waiting for another 19-3 season. What I learned out of that is that great players can make you look awful smart, and Megan was a great player. If any of you had ever seen her pitch, the word that always came to my mind was effortless. She made it look so easy. She made it look so easy that the other coaches and players would watch and they'd think, we can hit this kid. She doesn't have anything. 7 innings later, when they hadn't scored any runs and maybe scattered 2 hits, they learned a little bit of respect. Every ball she threw had a purpose. Ball down you a little faster than you thought it would. Everything moved, and wherever her catcher put the glove, that's what she hit. It's not a coincidence ESM has been to 3 sectional finals in our history, and we've won 1 sectional championship. 2 of those sectional finals were with Megan. Her junior year, we lost to eventual state champion CNS, and I think they beat everybody pretty bad that year. Her senior year, Megan pitched 3 shutouts down the stretch and 3 shutouts in the sectionals. We won the sectionals, and that was playing AA softball. And her statistics for that season, she had a .390 batting average, so she wasn't just a pitcher. She was a great hitter, also. And she had a .27 earned run average. And for those of you who don't know a lot about baseball or softball, that basically means she was giving up a run every 4 games. So I wasn't the only coach she made look pretty smart. She was pretty talented. That year, Meg was named the Central New York Player of the Year and was the first team All-State selection. From ESM, Meg went on to Lemoyne, where she was a key member of teams that went to 2 college World Series. In her junior year, she was second in Division II, all of Division II pitching with a .37 earned run average. In her senior year, she was named the Lemoyne Female College Athlete of the Year. So she didn't just dominate at ESM, she dominated at the Division II level also. Today, Meg lives in East Syracuse with her husband Patrick and their 2 sons. She teaches in the Camden School District, and she also is my assistant coach and does her best to make me look smart. So it was a great honor for me to introduce my good friend.
I had originally had an agreement that he was going to keep this short, so for me to keep mine short, so this is going to be a little brief. I wanted to start by congratulating all the other inductees. It's a privilege and honor to receive this award with all of you. I wanted to also thank all my coaches, teachers, and role models for inspiring me to become the person that I am today. Softball has created so many memories and long-lasting relationships. I wanted to just especially thank my family for their love and support and for getting me here today. And I especially want to thank my mom, who would have loved to have been here today, and I know she's watching down on us. Thank you.
So fast I didn't tweet her picture yet. Before I turn this over to Gary Becker. Really? Poor guy. He once invited me to coach at a baseball clinic with a bunch of former players. He starts introducing, all league here, all CNY here, another all-star here, then former Major League player, Olympic medalist, Todd Williams, and left me for last. How do you follow that up? Quickly? Oh, he's a good golfer. The next year I became the head golf coach. So Gary Becker.
Thanks, Mike. I timed this, Bobby, just for you, buddy. You told me 4 minutes. I'm going to try my best. It's kind of tough, though, when you're introducing Todd Williams and all the accomplishments that he's made throughout the course of his career. So I'm going to talk real fast. All right, Todd Williams played 3 years on the varsity baseball team between 1987 and 89. He accumulated an ERA of slightly over 2 through the course of those 3 years. He's an all-league player his junior and senior year, Section 3 All-Star his senior year while helping the Spartans to 1989 league championship. He is an all-time ESM baseball record holder. Okay, I know we're celebrating the 50th year of centralization when the 2 villages came together to make ESM. And so we kept the records for all those years. And Todd is tied for first in win-loss percentage, second in strikeouts, and he even did a little bit of hitting. He is tied for 8th in RBIs. if I had to choose one word to describe Todd in his high school career, it would be dominant. That's all I could say. After graduation in '89, he attended Onondaga Community College, and he played for Coach Joe Antonio, who's here this evening. Thanks for coming, Joe. 1991, Todd ranked 8th nationally in ERA, named to the first team All-Region, and awarded the OCC Student Athlete of the Year Award. He was inducted also into the OCC Hall of Fame in 1995. His professional career spanned 18 years with 10 major league organizations. Todd signed his first professional contract with the Los Angeles Dodgers in '91. In '92, he was recognized as their top prospect as far as a pitcher coming out of the minor leagues. He was a 4-time AAA All-Star performer. He was awarded the Rolaids Minor League Pitcher of the Year 4 times. He holds the all-time, in the history of the minor leagues, all-time minor league record for saves, 223. He's the only player to be named to 3 professional Team USA rosters in the '99, 2000, and 2003. He's a USA Baseball Pan American silver medalist in 1999. He was an Olympic gold medalist in the 2000 Olympic Games in Sydney, Australia, where he was the closer for the manager, Tommy Lasorda. After the Olympics, Todd signed with and pitched for the American League champion New York Yankees. Good, we got 2 Yankee fans out there. Good to hear that. He received his first Major League save in 2005 for the Baltimore Orioles. That year, Todd was 8th in the American League in appearances with 72, and he led the Orioles in appearances from 2005 to 2007 with 134 appearances. He was a busy man, and his arm sometimes was a little sore. Todd currently resides with his family in Tampa, Florida. His wife, Erin Fisher-Williams, who is also an '89 graduate of ESM. And they have 3 children. Trey, who's 16, Allie Reese, who's soon to be 14, and Trevor, 9 years of age. Todd now spends much of his time volunteering and coaching youth sports. Highlights. Over the 18 years that he played professionally, there was a lot of stories. And you know, a lot of you know, I could stand up here and spin a few yards. But I'm not going to do that. But afterwards, when we go to the bar, if anybody wants to hear when I met Tommy Lasorda and some of the things he had to say, I really can't say them in public. But if we're in a small group, I think I can handle that. One of the things, though, Bernadette, my wife Bernadette, thought I was crazy in 1994 because I said I was going to Cooperstown. Todd was named the 1994 Hall of Fame starting pitcher for the Dodgers. And he was going to do this at the Hall of Fame game, and I can't even remember who they were playing. So she says, are you really going to go down there? I said, well, the reason why she said, because it's pouring rain, thunder and lightning. And I said, yeah, I'm going down. I get there, and of course the buses are leaving for the local community college to change back into their clothes because the game was rained out. It rained on Todd's parade, unfortunately. But I went up there, and I got a chance to speak with Todd for a little bit. He said, could you stay right out here for a second? And I said, sure. And guess who brought out? Tommy Lasorda. It was a great honor. And I appreciate him doing that and sharing that. And if anybody wants to hear the stories, what Lasorda said, right later. Some of the stories Todd talked about when he pitched in the Dominican Republic during the winters in his first few years of professional baseball. There you go. That was for you, Milton. His pitching coach down there one year was Louis Tiant. Okay? and their team won our equivalent of a World Series championship that one year. Great stories from there. Numerous trips to Camden Yards, Baltimore's home field, and spending time with his family and his friends and his former players coming in to watch him play. It was a great time. But one of the moments that I cherished, nobody was around. So you're going to have to take your word for it, what happened. I came home from school and there was a message on the voicemail. And I played it back. And it was Todd standing where home plate used to be, because he's got it in his hand, calling from Sydney, Australia. Just thanking and being excited about winning the gold medal. And to have him think about doing something like that at that point in time was quite an honor. So thank you, Todd, for sharing that. Todd Williams has never, he's never forgotten where he's come from. And what I mean by that is he's maintained contact with his family, his friends, but also with our ESM baseball program. Todd gave back and continues to give back by returning to support fundraising, speaking with our teams, and furnishing equipment to players that are in need. He has been very, very unselfish in the giving of his time. Todd Williams was an outstanding athlete with his accomplishments speaking for themselves. But more importantly, he's a great father, family man, and person who I proudly can call a friend. Ladies and gentlemen, the first Spartan baseball player to be inducted into the East Syracuse Manoa Athletic Hall of Fame, Todd Williams.
I'd like to start off with Bob Campese. I was thinking about the job he had to tell Mr. Becker he had under 4 minutes to talk. And I thought about the only person that could hold Michael Jordan under 20 points was Dean Smith. So I figured if Bob Campese was a Dean Smith, so great job there. First of all, I want to congratulate all the inductees. What a great night, great accomplishments, and proud to be in the same class. It's outstanding. I want to thank all the family and all the friends that are here to support me. I can't thank you enough. The turnout was great. I guess I'll start off, actually, since they're here, I'll start off talking and thanking everybody more than anything else. Coaches, Mr. Becker, Joe Antonio, now Coach John Harrington, who was my catcher in high school, and Phil Campolo. Phil Campolo, he's a coach of mine in Babe Ruth, who passed away not too long ago. He was my coach between 13 and 16 years old in Babe Ruth, and it was my first experience with baseball in East Syracuse, and it was so much fun. And he went from a coach to a mentor to a good friend, pretty quickly, and we kept in touch for years. I wish he could be here now to celebrate this with us. On to Coach Antonio, I want to commend him on the days I was there at school. I'm trying to think of a word this, but I was kind of a pain in the butt with him, probably, to put it lightly. He had, he wasn't so strict. We had, just one of the policies we had, I think we had practice uniforms, we had 3 pair of sweatpants, 3 shirts, 3 hats, and you had to have the right ones on every practice, and I screwed it up probably every day. And I had to run and hear about it every day, so he put up with me for a couple of years. And, but we had a heck of a run for 2 years, and we were a game away from the College World Series each year, so I wish we could have got you there, but so thank you. Coach Becker, I don't even know where to start. Him, of course, Bernadette, I've kept in touch with, and they're just a huge part of my life, and they're obviously, they are some of the best people you ever meet, which I'm sure most of you know in here already. Coach Becker's not just a coach to me. He probably had the most influence on me than anybody in my life. I got written down here, forget anything he may have taught me, baseball-wise, which he did, but more importantly, the kind of person he was and the opportunity he gave me and the feedback he gave me as a friend off the field meant so much more than the on-field accomplishments we had. He also became a mentor, and I don't only consider him not just a father figure and a great man, but someone I will always consider a great friend and can call on anytime I need. So thank you very much. I want to thank John Harrington, Pam, his family over here. Beautiful family. I know John's done a lot for me. We've had in touch over the years. I couldn't pick a better person to take over for Coach Becker. Very proud of John, and I just want to thank him for his support and understanding of any situations with me over the years, and John could be the first one I can call and explain things to, and he'd understand. So I thank you for that, John. My sister was here. I don't want to get too much into this because I don't want to get crazy, but she, I can't express how much she's done for me because I was away. When I signed after college, I signed, first place they sent me was the Great Falls, Montana, which, East Syracuse isn't a big city. That's not Great Falls, Montana. It was a little bit of a culture shock. It was a lot of fun. But, that was, over 18-year span. I'd come back for some of those off seasons. But, my sister and my dad were home, and when my mom was around, my sister had to do and be around for that family and kind of hold that family together and do things when my mom was sick and when she had passed that I couldn't be around for because I was always gone. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate her as a sister. I love her to death. Couldn't ask for anything better sister. And whenever we would talk through the years, especially when my mom wasn't doing so well, she would always lie to me. And they would tell me everything was great. And I didn't like it, but I knew they understood because I had a job to do, and I had to go pitch, and they knew my attitude was to try to mentally you just can't I try not to care about stuff. Within baseball, within the game of baseball, especially pitching, you gotta forget about stuff. So they didn't wanna put any of that in my head. And, as much as I hated it, I thank her for that. So, just a huge thank you for everything you've always done. And you already know all this, but I need to say it, so thank you. I appreciate it. To be honest, I had a different speech prepared, and I had to change it up. My father didn't make it tonight, and I thought he was gonna be here, and a lot of the speech was about him. I don't have anything written here, but if he was here, I would, this honor is about me, but I don't feel like it's about me. And I know my father's proud, and what I would want to tell him was, my picture may be up there, but it says Todd Williams, but it's the Williams name that's up there, and I hope he's proud, because he's been a great man all his life. And I really wanted to be here tonight so I could express that to him. And just the fact that, not Todd Williams, but the Williams family and his name will be up there for as long as the school will be around. I hope, I know I've made him proud, and I really appreciate it. So it's more about him than it is me tonight. So it's a great honor to be here. I really accept it as my own, but I'd also like to accept this on behalf of really everybody that we went to school with, all my teammates, obviously coaches, and people that supported me, because as much as I appreciate this honor, there wouldn't have been a career without a lot of people in this room and the people that supported me over the years. I got a phone call I just talked to a friend one day, a buddy, John Hart, and we were just talking. It was probably 10 years of my career. I don't even know what it was. And he told, just in conversation, he told me to talk to his grandmother, and it was probably after the Yankees, because everybody always wants to talk about the Yankee year. He had mentioned that his grandmother lives in Messina. He's like, oh yeah, my grandmother. He was talking about his grandmother and how she watched me on TV every time I'm on, and blah blah blah. And I kind of caught me off guard, because during the baseball season, the professional baseball season, they go on for 140 to 160 games. So it's just over and over, routine. So you take it for granted what you do, and when you hear stories like that, and that's just one story out of many, but when you hear something like that, the feeling you get to know that you have support from people back home and from family and from friends or people you don't even think about, the feeling you get right there, if I could bring that on the mound with you, it's better than anything you could put in a pill and pop or anything like that. Better than adrenaline, because if you can go out there and pitch for those people that support you, there's no better feeling. And so, although it's an unbelievable honor for me to tonight to be inducted, I really feel like it belongs to everybody, because without everybody's support and the support system I've had and all the friends and family throughout the years, there would have been no chance for this to happen. So, and finishing up, Mr. Becker kind of said a little bit about how I tried to give back to the community and the program and stuff. The future, for me, and I've always wanted to try to give back as much as I can, I still want to. I'm not sure if everybody in here knows about the Challenger Field of Dreams project going on. It is for special needs kids to be able to play side-by-sides with other kids in a variety of sports. It's a huge development going on right now. I'm personally going to try to get involved as much as I possibly can to help out from here on out and work with them to do whatever I can, even if it means me coming from Tampa home as much as I can. I want to try to do as much as I can to help that out, and I think it's just the absolute perfect thing for me to do at this time. And on top of that, it's right in my backyard, in a place I love where I grew up, right here in East Syracuse. So I can think of nothing better and hope it works out very well. Mr. Becker brought up my family. They're not here, they couldn't make the trip, but you know, if they were here, I thank them. Erin, she played Miss Valerio, obviously, she said her best. She was very, very excited. And my 3 kids. I wish they could be here, they just couldn't. They're in the middle of school and all of their different sport programs. So I thank them. And I guess that's it. You know, again, it's a great honor. But without the support of everybody, I wouldn't be up here. So I really, really, truly, from my bottom of my heart, thank everybody for that. And another congrats to all the inductees tonight. Very proud and such a great class to go in this year. And this is something, obviously, I'll never forget. It's been a great night. So, thank you.
Little note you don't know about Todd, his last name is really Abbott, but nobody wanted to follow him, so he changed it to Williams so he'd be last. Just to show you the type of person Todd is, my brother had the privilege of traveling to Sydney, Australia to see the Olympics. He got to meet Evander Holyfield, and he thought that was the highlight, but he happened to steal my baseball jersey before he left and was wearing it. Now, he's a shy, nerdy kid. But graduated with Todd and had my ESM jersey on, and Todd recognized it while he was in Sydney and brought him down to get pictures, and it just, you know, thousands of miles away, he still recognizes ESM as a great place, so thank you, Todd. Before we close up, inductees, these pictures are for you to take home. I also have the boxes your plaques came in, if you need to travel and want to throw them back in those boxes. Once again, we will have another class in 2 years, and in order for that to happen, we need your nominations. So if there's somebody deserving, please let us know. And once again, thank you for coming.
Show us how to do it. Well, I joined the women's organization. Good for you. Good for you. Enjoy it. Yeah. What are you doing? Retired down south? No. My wife and I went south. So we just away years ago, October. So I haven't been south since. I'm bored.